Good evening, one and all. I'm so glad that you are all here today. We have a very wonderful event which is being curated by the 3C team, and I am very happy that a lot of you have joined in. We have a lot of our faculties and our students, and also members of the management who are here today to join us in this very amazing event. Uh, Now, when I come to talk about myself, I'm sure you recognize me. I'm Shilpa Malya. I'm a faculty of interior design. I've been here for a while. And this particular initiative, 3Cs, we are here to as part of the outreach program, which is going to help our students, faculties, and the entire community to get a very good understanding of what is happening in the design industry in this particular time. And we have started these initiatives as a very small venture, which is now branching out to bigger and better events as we go on. Today is one such example. We have a very amazing panel for circular design today. You might have already seen the poster, Circular Design, Reimagining Future. Joining us here today, we have on the panel architect Sridevi Changali. She's a conservation architect and the co-founder of Mason Singh Studio. It's a design studio here based in Bangalore. We have Ms. Susanna, who's the founder of Malai Biomaterials, and Mr. Siddharth Lala, who's the lead for corporate strategy and enterprise management for Circular Apparel Innovation Factory, which is also known as CAIF. And also we have Mr. Anand, who's the design head for Shahi Exports. I, on behalf of the entire team of JD, welcome you all to this wonderful panel today. I'm so glad that you guys are here. So starting ahead, I hope we are able to get a very wonderful discussion. So I would encourage all our audience to join in on this discussion, and please do leave in questions in the chat box. So as the panel will progress, we will look at your questions and we'll also pick up some things to read from that, and our wonderful panelists will definitely answer to them. And hoping to have a very wonderful session. Okay, let's jump right in. So we have a lot of different kind of varied panelists over here. And I'd like to start with one of the most important questions, which is there. Circular design is something which is in current trend right now. Now, yes, Ms. Susanna, can you answer to this question? And we'll keep the panel running as it goes along. How is circular design in this current design practice? Like, how do you think it has impacted you as a person, and how do you think it is going to impact the future generations?
Okay, that was a long question. So you asked me how is circular design doing in the current scenario?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Right. These are quite challenging times. I think we can all agree to that. So I believe they affect not only circular design but many other fields. But I think if anything, it might have created quite a radical shift in thinking for many people, because we did have the opportunity to see the world, in a very critical situation. And I think from what I can observe, somehow it did spark interest in many more people to inquire about, how we live here on the planet, and can we adopt principles that are more circular, not only in design, in everyday life. That is a kind of shift that I think I've been noticing just from the interest of people in not only what we do, but what other initiatives, brands, and organizations that work within the area of circular economy work. And I think, from the perspective of day-to-day life, from a normal person, if you just take into account that you have to stay home, every day, I think somehow you can observe, the traits, your own traits through as you go day by day. You can observe, okay, this is actually, how much waste I produce when I'm staying at home. So I think maybe that's one perspective. We also had a chance to see how our Earth looks like when we stop and when we don't do anything. So obviously, it's a very visible change, and from some perspectives, this of course makes things easier for people like me who have started working within circular economy and circular design prior to pandemics as well, because there's simply more interest and people inquire about what we do and what does it mean to practice circular design. On the other hand, there's also a lot of I think increased greenwashing in a way, because everybody understands that this is something you have to adopt and that you have to do. Um, but yeah, we'll see what the time will bring.
Definitely. I would definitely ask Ms. Devi to weigh in on the same question. Like, how do you think it is prevalent in your current design practice? Like, what is the impact that it is creating there?
Right. So, first of all, thank you for having me on the panel. It's lovely that we get to discuss this topic. I think it's very relevant, as Susanna was saying. It's that a lot of designers like us need to talk more and more about. I agree with Susanna on the point that we do have time now to think about our actions. But in my field, in architecture and construction, I feel, yes, there is definitely some thought and a trend towards that is moving from the linear, which is more prevalent, unfortunately, today, to a more circular design. But I feel the shift is just so slow. I feel that, as practitioners and as people in the field, there's not enough happening, and we are running on a clock. 2030 is when we can do something about the environment. And I feel, although there are a positive shift towards circular design and circular economies, I feel there's a lot more that needs to be done on this. Particular to my field, I feel there are two main things, or actually four main things that we need to look at. Materiality of what we work with is one main main item that becomes a part of this circular design. Something that is not looked at very often is also skill. How this, developing the skill kind of feeds into the whole circular economy aspect. As an architect, and several of you students out there are interior designers, as I understand, good utilization of your space, like a single space can have multiple uses. And that also has a great impact or a positive impact on a circular design and economy. And the fourth point being extension of life for a building. I'm talking about from a building point of view. As a heritage conservation architect, I feel we have a vast volume of buildings that can be reused. And extension of life is something that is, kind of not looked at in as much detail as it should in the Indian context, at least. So these four things that, and I'm sure through the discussions, we can go more into the details of materiality, in terms of skill development, in terms of space utilization and extension of life of buildings. It can really feed into it. And one thing that I want to kind of close this segment with is the role of a designer is changing every day. We need to start looking at more aspects. It's not only the aesthetic that is our responsibility. So we need to take it onto ourselves to create the buzz around it, make it a hot and happening topic. So more and more students, more and more professionals embrace this kind of thing. And I'm very happy that we have this 1 hour today to discuss more in detail about the circular design and circular economies.
Thank you so much for answering that. Now we have a very important role as a designer, like you said. Now, what do you think is is the existing fault that we have in our current design systems? And I would like to put this question to Mr. Anand because he's from the apparel industry, and I would like him to answer this question. Like, what do you think is the current fault which is there with our existing design system? Is there a way to change it, maybe, or where should we start from? Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. We do have a lot of opportunity to change it. The first and foremost opportunity, what I see is, we as a designer, what we feel and what we think is, we just sketch an image, we just make a garment. If it looks good, and if buyer appreciates it, that's the best thing. But we have to get more detailed into how it has been made, where it has been sourced from, what is the yarn being sourced, what is the cotton being sourced from. To just give you an example, to make a single piece of t-shirt, we spend around 3,500 liters of water. So that is equivalent to a person's drinking water for 2.5 years. We don't take those into account. And I've been working on circularity, been working on sustainability programs for past 4 5 years with H&M and Calvin Klein and Tommy. We've been doing it, as Sridevi was talking about. We are delayed. We are taking it for our own granted time. We should have done something by now. At least I'm happy that we are talking about this right away, because I believe she told me that 2030 is the timeline when it's going to happen. Whereas we see brands which have already started and they're doing fantastically well. So as a designer, what I would like to tell the co-designers are, don't just think from design perspective. Think from the future, what we're going to design from, what we're going to use. So get into more technicality of it. Get more specific into technicality. See where the yarn comes from, how you can utilize the yarn, how you can utilize the fabric what you've got. It's not that, okay, I'm a designer, if I do the design, if it's successful, I'm going to get million pieces of order. But to start it with, see where you can take the raw materials from. For example, you want to use cotton or you want to use polyester, you can better opt for a recycled polyester than going for a virgin polyester, because the recycled polyesters are all from pet bottle waste or other waste taken from the sea or anywhere from the land waste. So why can't we think from there? Why can't we start from there? And when we go for cotton, why can't we think of BCI cottons? When I say BCI, it's a better cotton initiative. Or why can't we think from organic cottons? Why do we want to think from a normal perspective? We have to get more into the source where we get the fabrics from, where we get the yarns from. I believe that's where we miss as a designers. We just think about the aesthetic of it. We just think about how it is going to come out, but we are not thinking about where it is coming from. So that's the first thing which I believe is very important.
So, yeah, so continuing on the same pattern, I'm sure, Mr. Siddharth, you would have also been through these certain challenges that come ahead, with these kind of circular design and innovation. Can you weigh in on this? Like, how do you think, the biggest hurdles are when you're trying to achieve circularity in design?
No, absolutely. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. Uh, and today circularity is not really a trend. It's actually become a necessity. And as Sridhar was mentioning, that most brands and companies have set aggressive goals by 2030 to address the circularity needs. So coming to your question, I think there are two, major aspects which are really at this point in time a hurdle to the growth of circular initiatives. One is the fact that there's very little consumer awareness about what circular design and what circularity really means. Second is also, if there is a consumer awareness, in that case, some of these innovations, tend to be quite expensive to adopt, and the willingness of a consumer to pay is not really there at this point in time. Uh, so it's a very small set of audiences, and which really do pay for such initiatives at this point in time when it comes to the consumer side. And third thing is that there is also a lot of requirement for brands for circular innovations, but the access to some of these innovations, the access for a business case for some of these innovations is what the brands are looking for. So the key challenge that we are seeing today, and we also had the pleasure to work with Susanna and also Anand's team on some of the initiatives that we are working on at this point in time at CIF. So we do see a lot of brands coming to us for circular innovations and circular solutions. But the only thing is that when you look at some of the global brands, they tend to push their cost onto the manufacturers in India. And the manufacturers are a little concerned about absorbing the cost because they're not really sure if there's a business case for some of these circular innovations really. So essentially what's important is, also to surface and bring about some of these circular innovations that are there in the country and showcase them to a network of manufacturers to try it out. Because at least from the place where we are seeing it, the entire movement in India at least is being driven by a lot of global manufacturers, like a Shahi. We're seeing a lot of interesting enterprises, like Susanna's, which are coming out there. But the question really is that, how do you really help, some of these innovation scale at the same time, help to find the right partners.
Yeah, and on that same note, I would like to ask Ms. Sridevi, like you would have a differing point to this because you're from the construction side of it. Would you tell us about your challenges, or as an industry, what are the challenges that is there you're facing? Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a central theme here of creating awareness. That's one of the things we do need to create awareness among our clientele, among our vendors, among our contractors, importance of circular design. So awareness is definitely one of the main things that is a theme cutting across both architecture as well as fashion. For us, there is also, so I feel it's kind of like a domino effect. So you first you have awareness about the topic, then that awareness will enable you to make the right choices. So I can give you an example from architecture, where if a client comes to me tomorrow saying I want to build a house and I want it to look like something in Greece. So there's a basic problem there, where you're in India and you need to contextualize yourself to the Indian context and build accordingly, which will kind of feed into the whole aspect of circular design. So awareness leading to the right choices. Also, there's a lot of wrong information out there when it comes to building design. There's a lot of greenwashing happening, and a lot of companies that are using the label of sustainability to sell their products at a higher price. There's an example of plastic grass, which has a LEED certification for it, which has a green rating for it when it's in effect plastic grass. So it's a bit contradicting there. So again, coming back, awareness, creating right choices with the right intention. So that is definitely very important for us as architects, to create that awareness for your clients. There's also another aspect of it for all of us, not only clients, but to make the right kind of lifestyle decisions as well. So what are the products you're using for not only your building, but also for your personal use? So that's something I struggle with on a daily basis, the products that you buy and you kind of source. So coming to the construction industry, we as Masons Inc. as a firm do try to promote earthen techniques. So we use a lot of mud as our base material, and again try to demystify the whole thing, and try to kind of nullify all the bad press that mud as a material has out there. So yeah, so the hurdles are basically, I think, once you cover awareness of your clients, I think the rest of it kind of falls into place. The other as a construction, finding the right people to
If he's serious
so
to start,
I think there's a bit of a
because of course I've discussed.
Sorry, there was an interruption there. Okay, yeah, you were saying. Please go on.
sorry, there was a slight interruption. So the other major hurdle for us is to find the right people to create our designs. So that again comes back to the right kind of masons and contractors who can build for us. It's very easy to say, okay, I'll use a mud wall here, or I'll use a nice thatch roof for my building. But if you don't have the right people, then it kind of fails at the beginning. So again, as an organization, what we try to do is we try to promote training programs. We have over the past 7 years conducted multiple training programs for students of architecture, professionals in architecture, and also for masons and labor, to know how to build in this kind of concept. So we call it circular design, and there are a lot of fancy theories and terminologies behind that. But when it comes to the ground, how do we actually build a mud wall? Something like this that's behind me. is something which is very important, which again, the hurdle is lack of skill, and the solution is to provide that kind of open source knowledge where we can share this with everyone.
Yeah, on the same note, I would also like to ask Miss Susanna. Now, you have a very interesting brand over here, vegan vegan leather. How did you face your challenges? What were the specific ones, and how did you face them?
How I faced my challenges.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm saying if I knew all the challenges ahead of me prior to starting them, I probably wouldn't have started in the first place, because challenges there are many indeed. But I mean, from perspective of a startup and of a small scale business, we kind of have to face challenges step by step. We have to basically take one problem at a time and find a solution to it. But I think we were, in a way, also quite lucky, to come with the idea that we had, with the research that we had at the beginning of our project in the time when we came, because had we been doing this maybe 10, 15 years ago, we would have been regarded as two hippies trying to make a material. But luckily, we came in a time when shift has started in the more general public as well. And as we already mentioned, people started questioning, including me, starting questioning where are things coming from and at what cost. Are they coming to life? And many challenges that we had, I think were actually at least partially sorted with the support that we received from organizations, from people, from people that we know, people that we don't know. But at the beginning we had challenges when it comes to establishing a supply chain for our raw materials, which was not really there. So literally we had to start from a lab scale, from a very small scale, convincing a lot of people, and then slowly, as they saw, okay, that makes sense not only environmentally, but also it is bringing me some economical benefits. So, step by step, it was easier then to create a larger network. But also, as I said, we were lucky enough to tap into kind of markets where there was a demand, or there started to be a demand for a product that we were coming up with. So a lot of things, a lot of challenges have been eased by that itself. Communication challenges there are as well, of course, when we are doing something which people are not familiar with, which they don't really know how to explain to themselves. 60% of what we do actually is some sort of education, because we have to communicate effectively why what we do is important, and why people should spend money for doing that, as opposed to some more conventional and perhaps more affordable solutions that there already is. So yeah, when it comes to challenges, I think we could go on for many more hours, but you have to be creative when facing challenges. I think that's at the core of it.
I'm sure our entire panel will agree to that statement, that everyone has a lot of challenges and it's a huge spreadsheet over there. Yeah. So taking on from this, so most of all of you are from this customer facing kind of roles which are there. Now, definitely the question comes, you be about educating and all those different factors which are there. Now, how will a customer know that a business or a product is adhering to circular design practices? Like, how would you educate them? And I would like this question to be pointed out to Mrs. Siddharth. Can you answer that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, educating the customer is actually the key when it comes to making them aware of some of the sustainability challenges that are there. And really, there are two ways to do that. So one is a lot of brands do communicate in their advertising, in their promotional campaigns, via social media, or even through their packaging, through some of the labels that they attach. So for example, Anand mentioned about the Better Cotton Initiative. So there is a BCI certification, which goes on the apparel and products which are there, which showcase some of the sustainable initiatives that are being followed by the brands in creating these products. But where we are seeing a shift, and which is really interesting, which I definitely feel that a lot of the students here should read upon, is that a lot of brands globally, including brands like, let's say, H&M or Patagonia, are experimenting with blockchain-enabled tools for traceability. So what this really implies is that moving forward in the future, 10 years down the line, and these piloting initiatives are already on, by the way. Imagine that you buy a specific outfit, and there is a barcode on it. You just scan the barcode through your mobile phone, and it gives you an entire traceability link, right till the source, in terms of how the product was sourced, from whether it was sourced ethically from a specific farm, if it was right organic cotton, the quality of dyes used in that, the quality of material used in that, right up to the processes that were used. So we're also seeing a technology intervention coming in now to create awareness, because globally is being driven by brands, because globally there are consumers who are looking at sustainability very seriously. And in fact, that is shifting the momentum in India, where some of the large manufacturers, to cater to their global brands, are now looking at adopting sustainable solutions.
Yeah, that answers quite well, I'm sure, from the apparel industry, especially. Uh, can we have something which is similar to what Mr. Siddharth had said? Uh, can Ms. Sridevi also answer this? Like, how would you talk to your customers about this?
So I think, Siddharth, it's really interesting that you mentioned, merging technology with materials and the actual product that goes into fashion. I think that's really, really interesting, and maybe something we could explore in architecture as well. You scan your cement bag, and it shows you how much energy and embodied energy is there in that cement or in that steel product. So I think that's really cool. For architecture, I think it's not as hard, because as a client, the client sees their buildings come up right in front of them. So they can actually see what materials are going in as the product is being made. So it's much easier for us to educate them on that. But at the same time, the more processed material you buy, the less the customer sees. So if I am going for, say, cement bricks instead of mud bricks, what we use is the cement bricks just come in a lorry and get dumped on site. So you don't really know, as Siddharth was mentioning, if it's ethically sourced, if the labor is paid properly. We don't know any of that. Whereas if you go for a mud construction or something which is locally sourced, you can actually go to the quarry and pick up and see how things are happening. What we promote again is mud construction, so that happens in situ. So this particular wall was made here on site, so you can actually see the material was gotten from under our feet. So it's much easier for a client to understand circular design when doing a house construction or a building construction.
And just to add to what Sridevi was saying, at least my understanding of sustainability really started from looking at some of the work happening in interiors and architecture earlier, because I think LEED rated buildings have been in there. The entire certification for LEED rating has been there for the last 15, 20 years. And that really set the benchmark in terms of moving towards sustainability. Apparel has been a new development over the last 5, 6 years, I feel.
So it's interesting that you brought up LEED, because that's something that as an organization, we have our doubts about. So LEED is an American-based certification system, which has, to talk a little bit about certification, it gives you different levels, gold, platinum, and they look at different materials that your building has used and rate your building accordingly. So since it's a foreign certification, there is a lot of things that go in which are by inherently not sustainable. For example, double glazing. In a tropical country like us, you should avoid as much glass as possible in your buildings to avoid the heat gain. That's one aspect. All the mechanical cooling technologies, HVAC as we call it, are also given a certification. So as a practice, we believe that inherently, if your designs, like this room, for example, doesn't require light or air conditioning when it's during the daytime, or when it's pleasant, you just need a fan to keep you cool. So these items weren't looked at from that Western perspective of certification. Now we have Griha certification, which is the Indian version of LEED, which is a little bit more comprehensible for our context. So yeah, the certification systems are available, but the technology, I think, and the context sensitivity needs to be integrated.
Definitely, definitely. That's a very good point there. I wanted to ask Mr. Anand, uh, we have a lot of students over here and a lot of people who are freshers and they are going to be out there on the market. They're actually going to start up their careers. What do you think is the kind of knowledge and tools that they actually need to learn to be a successful circular design, initiator actually?
It's a good question at the right time, I would say, because this lockdown has taught us a lot as a designers. We as a designers, for example, every month my team is around 30 designers. We used to make around like say 500 samples to send it to buyers. So that is actually going in for waste. Actually, it's just for making 500 samples, we are going to send only 30 to 40 samples to the buyer to have a look at it. Then we used to have a lot of 3D designs earlier, like Browseware or Optitex. But as designers, we never used them. Only the tech team used to use them for like SMS or maybe bulk approval or size set approvals. But for past 3 or 4 months, and my entire team is got into Clo 3D is something pretty good for apparel designing. So I believe that designers should learn Clo, because we can present a design like a original design. It's just making a CAD, just placing your fabric into it, just scanning a fabric and placing into it. It looks like an original garment which is photoshopped and sent to the buyer. It's very very good. And actually we should have started using this long back, but as I said, lockdown has taught us recently, and I'm saying this is a very good practice and this is the right time. And I've been looking out for Clo designers, because the designers which I have doesn't know to use Clo. We bought the Clo, but we doesn't know how to use the Clo. So we hired a designer who knew Clo, and he's just passed out last year. And we've been in design field for 15 years and we don't know how to use it. So this is the right time you asked it. I believe that it's a fantastic software, and every designer must learn that software, because that's going to be very very sustainable for each and every manufacturing company as well as for the buyers.
Definitely very. I myself, I'm not from the fashion background, but I started seeing that Chloe 3D models for a very long time from this lockdown onwards. So it's a very good innovation, definitely for all the designers out there to look at sustainable models of development. Yeah, definitely another major issue, talking about sustainability, it's not just up to private entities to think about sustainability aspects or circular design aspects. What do you think, the kind of policy changes can be there from the government that will actually help the society to adapt to circular design practices? If Ms. Susanna, you could answer this for us.
Sure. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer that, but but I'll try my best. You know, obviously, I think there's a lot of difference depending on which government are you talking about, but I think overall it would be really helpful if there was more education and literacy in terms of, how can we be better at this? Because I feel like, there's a lot of, especially here, you see a lot of slogans like Swachh Bharat, yes, but then what can you really do, Like, it's just not enough, of course. You have to give people infrastructure to be able to recycle, to be able to compost, to be able to learn where to put their waste and whether they actually need to have it in the first place, and I believe it's the earlier you start, the better, like, for example, in a place where I come from, this kind of education is there from primary school, so like you wouldn't really have people littering on the street because like from the very early age, we are told we are not supposed to do that. And I'm not saying, there's a system without problems, of course not. But, it is an important step if you want to have a population that maintains the environment clean. There's many aspects to that. I believe, there are governments who accept other countries' waste, and I think there's been a lot of shift against these kind of government decisions these days because then what is the point of you as an individual to even want to recycle if your own country is importing tons of waste every day, Um, so, I mean, I think the basic or maybe the most important thing to adopt for government is definitely integrity. You can't say one thing to your people and then do the opposite. Um, so I believe a lot of improvement can be introduced by correct policies of the government. And I think it's sometimes also very tricky. Like here in Kerala, I know that at some point it was introduced, a ban for plastic bags was introduced, and we all welcome that, and people followed it for a while. And now you see a plastic bag ban back, and I don't really know if the ban is gone now or like whether people stop prosecuting it. But so yeah, that should definitely, be encoded a little more, and maybe it comes back to the education, because very often I feel things are forced upon people and they only follow because otherwise they would be prosecuted, as opposed to when you start educating people at the very early age, you will not have to ban things and you will not have to prosecute them later on in life because they will know that, that's something that's ultimately not contributing to the benefit of the society and cleanliness of their environment. So a lot of things can be done definitely from the side of the government.
Very, very true. And I would also like to ask Ms. Devi about the same, from your side on what kind of governmental policies can be employed for an interior or an architecture point of view.
So I completely agree with Susanna on education. That's definitely the base. But as a designer, as an architect, what would give me a little bit more teeth to be able to do more is to, so we have state level building codes as well as national level building codes. Unfortunately, in neither of these does natural building materials feature at all. So you have specifications for concrete, you have specifications for steel, all the kind of industrial materials have its specifications very clearly written in our codes. If I were to build a mud wall, there are no national level codes, which is one of the main reasons why you see more and more mud buildings which are of a smaller scale. Governmental buildings, I would love to see a environmentally conscious, natural government building that comes up, and that would kind of set the tone for the codes to be written. It is challenging, yes. Even countries like the UK, Europe are just coming now. New Zealand has codes already. So sorry, yeah, codes again is one major aspect. And again, coming to from a more technical point of view, along with the codes, when you have large tendered projects, you have something called the schedule of rates, which is given by the government. Again, mud does not feature, or natural materials don't feature in the schedule of rates, which is why a lot of people shy away from using it for large scale projects. So to kind of scale up what we promote, we would like to see the government to come up with good legislation and good codes and introduce mud in various levels of their legislation and policy.
Yeah, definitely. You're very right on that. Now, like, as a, I'm sure all our students and whoever's here in the discussion today definitely want to know all your stories and how you actually came to this particular sustainability, circular design and everything. So why don't we start with Mr. Anand? Could you give us a light on how you started on sustainability and where and how you reached to this particular company? Like, what was the motivation and how are you sustaining that?
Okay, this is actually a big story, if you want me to say, because I started this kind of recycle program along with my CEO in Shahi, NID CEO, because we used to do around, say, 6 million pieces of an order for Walmart, USA. So 6 million is something, 60 lakhs. 60 lakhs is something huge. And even if per garment takes around like 200 grams, it's huge. We are dealing in tons and tons of fabrics. It's like the 6 million is about 2,000 tons of fabric which we use. And when we make garment, there are 18 to 25% goes into loss. when we cut something, there are 25% which goes into loss. So when I say 2000 tons, so when you take 20% out of it, it is huge. So it's easily 400 tons of fabric which goes into loss, which is just cut and thrown away, which may be used for something else. Then we thought that when it is like 400 tons is huge. What can we do with it? So that's when it all started. Then how can we benefit out of it? So when you say 400 tons, so you can make another, say like 1 million pieces out of it. So that's huge. 1 million pieces of t-shirts is huge. So that's how it started actually. And then then with a lot of customer inputs and with a lot of inputs from Gant. If you heard about the brand called Gant, it's from Sweden. So they said that, okay, you're cutting this fabric, the fabric is going into waste. Why can't we retrieve the color from it? That's another idea which we are working on currently. So why can't we retrieve the dye stuff from which has already been dyed? So we are in the initial process. We've already done a couple of trials, and we might do a shipment maybe in the next season. So that's also something interesting. So these are certain points where we see in front of our eyes a lot of materials are being wasted. Why can't we do something out of it? So that's how it's all started, and we are in a very good process. So we shipped almost around 1 million recycled t-shirts to US recently, and that was something huge because everyone thought that recycling is not that easy. The first thing, as Mr. Siddharth said, it is going to be expensive. That's the foremost thing. It's going to be expensive. Second thing, the quality. The quality will not be like what we're using, virgin cotton or virgin polyester. The quality is not going to be the same. The third thing is the time consuming. You cannot, the lead time will be more than what the regular lead time would be. So these are all the constraints. If buyer is agreeing to it, then we could have a success. It has to be mutual benefit between the buyer as well as the manufacturer. So we are seeing that kind of interest from the buyers. They are ready to take it, maybe not starting with huge quantities, at least starting with 2% or 3% of their quantities. But I'm 100% sure that by 2025 or 2030, we'll see a lot of recycled products in the market globally. And one more, as you said, that how could government help? Maybe I will not talk about India. For example, if it is a European country or a US country, so they could give us some benefits on import duties. Say, for example, for cotton, if they are importing from India, they are giving their import is 18. The import duty is 18%. They can go down by that. They can say, okay, 0% import duty if you import recycled products. So these are some benefits which we could get from government also. So we are just in the starting stages. So I'm 100% sure that by 2025 or 2030, we will be able to overcome by the challenges of price, quality, as well as the time.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. Very interesting. Yeah, please do answer. Any one of you can go ahead and continue with the same.
Sure. So just share, since this is more from a perspective in terms of, how should, students or somebody create a journey in circularity or get into circular design. So I just want to add that, today it's very important that, design schools like yourself, create courses around circular design and, really create an understanding towards circularity it really means, because currently, even in terms of knowledge, there aren't really strong sources which teach students in terms of what it really means. And circular design really comes at three levels. There's one which is your entire material aspect in terms of the kind of materials that you're using. Are they recycled nature? Are they naturally sourced? Are they biodegradable? The kind of dyes that you're using. Secondly, at a system level, the quality of water that you're using. Are you recycling your water? Are you saving and conserving energy while creating your process? Are you using recycle to use some of the textiles in your manufacturing process? And thirdly, also, what are some of the business models that could be used to drive circularity and promote circular design, like let's say rental and resale models. So I think this is the kind of awareness that needs to be created, for students really. And also, I just want to quickly cover on the point that you mentioned also regulation, because in India, I think we've done a lot when it comes to putting regulations in place, for circular design. Although it's not mentioned as circular design, it's more about environmental concerns, but there are laws in place in terms of how do you manage water, how do you manage chemical dyes. The plastic ban that Susanna mentioned, it's very much there. Unfortunately, enforcement has not really happened for that. but you're not allowed to carry plastic less than 50 microns in India. It's punishable offense. And today there's also a law that has come out wherein every manufacturer is supposed to collect and recycle the plastic packaging waste, which they offset by a specific third-party provider called an EPR mechanism. So this awareness needs to be created also for students who want to get into this field to understand this, because it's still very nascent. And to be honest with you, in terms of how I got into this entire journey, so I don't know if this is the best thing to say, but I really come from a business building and consulting background. I built one of India's leading fashion brands, but I got into it by accident. So IntelliCap was building an initiative around circular design and circularity. It was an entrepreneurial venture where they were looking at someone to look at sourcing different innovations, running pilots on the ground, or working at a legislative level with different government officials to understand what is the kind of policy interventions required. And they got me on board 2 years back. But I think I've really been enjoying this, the entire impact space. And I can say that for anyone who's to get into this, this is a sunrise sector, and this is the right time to get into it.
Quite rightly said. Please do share.
Yeah, I'd like to go next because I think I'm a polar opposite of what Siddharth said. I wish I had more experience in anything other than sustainability. So right after college, I went to a place called Auroville. If you haven't looked it up, please do look it up, because they do a lot of experimentation with a lot of things, energy, architecture, fashion also. So my career started there, and I started Mason Zinc with my partner Rosie Paul, who also started her career there. So it went from sustainability to heritage, which again, talking a little bit about heritage, it's the best circular design model, I would say, in architecture, where you're extending the life of a building that's already 100 years old. So from there to masters in conservation, coming back and doing various initiatives in Bangalore as part of Masons Inc. So that's been my journey. But I would say that as students, you should probably explore all aspects of it. Check out the industrial materials, check out everything, and have a complete knowledge of everything, and don't limit yourself to one or the other. But at the end of the day, once you've collected the data, have the right information to make the right choices. I'd like to just end with that.
Yeah, that's a very nice message. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Ms. Susanna, I'm sure everyone would want to hear your side as well. Yeah.
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
It was just about your journey. How did you get into this, and what's the story of the entire journey over here?
I see. Sure. So my background is in fashion and textile design initially, and later on I studied materials future, which is kind of a design research course focused on sustainability and merging of science and design. And I mean, my journey to what I currently do has been, I guess, quite long already. It was around that time when I was questioning, my practice, because I really loved doing what I used to do, but seeing all the waste that was produced and seeing just kind of carelessness with, how are things made, and how so few people actually care about how things are made, how they come to us. And I started questioning my own role within the system, and I was wondering whether it's possible to do things in a more considerate way, perhaps, or in a way that I don't really feel bad about ultimately at the end of the day. And so I came across materials that comes from microorganisms, which is a field that fascinated me because if you look at the realm of microorganisms or bacteria in general, you can see that you actually would have, microorganism that is capable to replace almost all the industrial processes that we currently do in a different way, and it can work more effectively, it can work in a cleaner way. but we simply, in many cases, at the time at least, we were not doing it. So I started questioning my role. What can I do, in order to adopt this way of working? But of course, it's very different to work with living organisms and microorganisms in particular than working with, a piece of fabric or a slab of wood, because your tools are very different, and you have to merge different sets of different skill set and have different knowledge, I guess. Around that time, I started experimenting with bacterial cellulose, which I continue doing until this day. But I think it was only after I came to India that my initial project kind of started taking off, partially because you guys have a lot of coconuts here, and that turns out to be one of the favorite foods of the bacteria that I work with. And there's actually plenty of agricultural waste that I can grow my bacteria on, as long as other supporting materials such as natural fibers that we source from all over India, basically. And so I think I've been working with mice for the past 3 years, and it was a leap of faith, to be honest, because we literally started the project with the co-founder, to make kind of in our kitchens, with the support of experts that we were in contact with support of our families, and I think it was this initial drive to just simply do things differently and find out, more than anything else, just our curiosity to find out whether, something like this can work, and whether people really are interested in it, and it turns out they are, at least to some extent. And at the moment, for the past 2.5 years, I've been living in Kerala, where we had a small pilot production unit where the whole startup is based. And past 1.5 years have been very challenging, that's for sure, but also a lot of good things happened. So we're pretty grateful for that.
Thank you so much for answering that. We have a couple of audience questions which are coming in, which we'll move on to that right now. So a very interesting one. Somebody has asked, is there a need for consumers' lifestyle shift to accept the circular design components, that is reuse, remake, recycle, all that? Do you think that, any one of you could take up this question? Like, do you think is there a big need for a consumer's mindset to change? Because we're all designers here, right? Anyone?
Yeah, actually, we kind of took a survey a couple of years back. It's a simple survey, like in a family in America. So how many times do they launder their apparels, like their clothings? How many times? In the sense, like, okay, it's a family of 4. Okay, they're laundering 3 times a week. And how many hours are they spending on the laundry? And what is the energy they're spending on the laundry? And what is the water they're spending on the laundry? So taking that from the customer, we came up with something saying that because they launder their product, the first thing is for the stain, the second thing is for the smell, and there are certain other aspects also. So we tried to do, along with a chemical supplier called Dove, we try to give some finish to the garment. So for example, if you give some stain release finish, or we give some anti-odor finish, so that actually lasts longer, and the washing cycle reduces. If it is a stain release finish, if you're washing a t-shirt or a jeans for 20 minutes in the washing machine, with a stain release finish, you can just wash it for 5 minutes. You're saving a lot of water there, saving a lot of time there, saving a lot of energy there. So these kind of questionnaires, these kind of survey from the market will help us. So we initially we started with this, and there's another survey, like, what do you say, how many times do they use their jeans, how many times do they use their t-shirt? Because the laundry, sometimes in America the laundry is more expensive than a new t-shirt. They can go and buy a new t-shirt for $3 than doing a laundry for $2. So these are certain aspects which we are working on. And as I said, we started working 3 years back. Within a couple of years, we'll be ending up somewhere finding out what is the right solution for all these.
Thank you so much for answering that. Another interesting question. How to sustain a circular design business model as a startup? Anyone can take this again.
So honestly, I think Susanna is living this day in and day out. She'll be the best person to answer this question. But I just want to add it from a third person point of view before I'd love to get understand her perspective also. So as an industry initiative, we are seeing two areas where entrepreneurs and startups require a lot of support. One is that we do realize that there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who've got great solutions, but when it comes to investing in research and development, in finding the right solution partners who can even give them a letter of intent to test their products out, it's tough to get access to them or tough to partner with them. So there are two strategies that we really see are working well. So one is which is manufacturer driven. So Anand did mention about some of the work that they are doing, and essentially manufacturers like him are supporting a lot of young enterprises by doing different piloting initiatives based on some of the requirements for global brands, at least from what I understand. So I think there has to be a lot of support which comes in from the organized large manufacturers and brands in India to promote some of the startups which are coming up. And secondly, also some of the startups which are coming up require platforms through, let's say, catalytic capital support to help them through certain initial phases of funding. So, for example, the Circular Design Challenge, which is an initiative by AMG Alliance, provides some element of capital to support these enterprises. Globally, there are funds coming up like a Circulate Capital. There are foundations coming up which are investing in circular design startups. So I think a lot more interventions like this are required to help some of these startups sustain at this stage.
Yeah, coming to Ms. Susanna, as he had requested, we would like you to take this question as well.
Right. I mean, obviously, it depends how complex is the solution you're bringing to the individuals or the industries. Sometimes I feel it's some solutions are easier to implement, therefore it is easier to find the funding as well, and they are easier to communicate to broader public. So it really depends. But as Siddharth already mentioned, if you need the kind of time and funding also for R&D, it can be quite challenging to get funding because you have to convince people about validity of your solution. Very often requires a lot of money, and of course you need to have data to prove all that. It's not that you just come to the investor and say, I got a great idea, and you really should do that. No. So I think if that is the case, it is really priceless to find good quality partnerships with people from academia who can help you, put the research forward, for example, if that's the case. It's been very helpful for us to create partnerships with industry players, with larger companies, that are able to support us with either testing facilities, with wear tests, and sometimes, if you're lucky, with capital too. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That serves quite our purpose. Also, on the same note, Ms. Dev, even you have a very valuable suggestion here.
Yeah, so as architecture, I mean, Susanna is doing something really, really innovative, and I think there's a lot more R&D that's required for something that she's taking up. Luckily for us in urban construction, there have been a lot of examples of our mentors and people who've been doing this from the late 80s. So we have a lot of support that way. We have a good, healthy system of architects who are following the principles that we follow. But at the same time, we don't consider what is already existing as the be-all and end-all of it. So right now, my partner is doing research on natural stabilizers. So mud requires some sort of a stabilizer sometimes, not in all contexts. So she's looking at traditional practices in Kerala of how we can use various flora and fauna to stabilize the mud in plaster. So right now it's all self-funded research that we do, but Of course, scaling it up to the next level would require, again, funding, support, collaboration. And we do have a healthy network of people who will support on these matters and give advice. But it is challenging and it is very, very slow. So suppose you want to take one material and try to kind of scale it up. I can't imagine the sort of hurdles that my partner is going to face to just make that into something which can be kind of produced and marketed on a large scale. So yeah, it is very challenging, but again, not impossible with the right collaborations.
Very rightly said. Uh, we have another question. Uh, there is a section of market that finds comfort within the status of their clothing and apparels made out of scrap fabric. And apparels made of out of scrap fabric could alter their comfort levels. So how do we influence this sector of the market? Can any one of you answer it?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, as I was talking about earlier, when we scrap fabric is nothing but when we take some cut waste or scrapped out fabric. See, we the what we do with the fabric is when we take the scrap fabric, we have to brush it, make it into refiber it, and then we have to respin it. See, cotton staple length. If you know about staple length reduces when you kind of brush the fabric, when you make the fabric into a fiber. So what we tend to do, what we are trying to do now is maybe blend it with the polyester to increase the strength. See, we've done a couple of orders, and I'm sure that the hand feel is not that bad compared to a virgin quality or something. Still, we are trying to improve the quality on it. We are seeing what are the other options there to improve the quality on these things. But there would be certain restrictions, and as I said, we are in the initial stages, and I am sure that another 3 or 4 years down the line, we'll be able to give the whatever you require, whatever the customer requires. And I believe even Siddharth had what we are doing about all these.
I think we lost some audio on it. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Anand. Yeah, you can go on. Yeah, we can hear you. You can go on. You can unmute yourself and start.
I'm sorry, maybe I was lost, I believe. Yeah. So as I said that we are in the process of all these. As he said, it is comfort within the status. Uh, of course, it is going to be a little. I would not say uncomfortable, but not the same the touch or feel what you used to get it from of virgin fiber. As I said, we are in the process, and I'm 100% sure that we will find a way, because for you to remove a dye stuff from a waste fabric, when we can do that, and I'm 100% sure that we can make the hand to be much softer. So we will make sure that it will come in the near future.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Coming to our one of the closing questions we are having, it's very relevant to the current situation. Considering how the pandemic has affected the entire economy, do you think consumers are in a mindset to spend on circular products? I would want everyone to actually weigh in on this question.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Basically, like, right now, with the current situation of the pandemic, the question has come that do you think consumers are in a mindset to spend on circular products?
I believe they are already helping us in circularity, because they're going to, the life of whatever they bought is going to increase. Maybe they would have bought 10 more products in these 3 months. I think so. Whatever they bought is going to increase. So that is one advantage, I would believe, on a softer note. But we see that we also know that we don't spend much on our clothing, or we don't spend much on products right now, as we are at home, and we are happy wearing whatever we have. So that's what I feel it is.
Yeah, and just to add, so there are two aspects. One is in terms of ensuring that you're not buying a lot more clothes, you're reducing the amount of consumption that you have. But at the same time, so sustainability and circularity is not a short-term phenomena. The thing is that globally brands that have adopted sustainability as part of their Paris Climate Agreement or some of the sustainability missions and sustainability goals for the long run. So whether so maybe at a short run, consumers may not spend on garments which are circular design by nature, sustainable nature, because the cost is expensive. But eventually, with the entire movement of brands moving towards in that direction globally, because of some of the objectives that they've set for themselves, at the same time, with some of the government legislations coming in place, by default, we will see an increase in sustainability and circularity. So, whether you like it or not, it's coming to get you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I think health has become one of the main concerns right now, especially after the pandemic. More and more people are talking about better ventilated spaces, more light, more sunlight coming into your building. So definitely, I think people will kind of sit up and realize what has happened from, creating these dingy boxes of spaces that are really unpalatable and unlivable. One main thing that is missed out in architecture a lot, I'm not too sure about fashion, is that your buildings are basically your third skin. Your fashion is your second skin. So you need to consider the health aspects of what you are investing in and what you're buying or what you're surrounding yourself with. So I think definitely it will be a positive impact for the whole circular economies. But I just hope that it's not short-lived, just like how we act after the second wave has died down, everybody will be out partying. I hope it's not short-lived and people consider it for a longer time period.
And just to add up to it, as Mr. Siddharth said, see, this sustainability is not a short term. All the buyers, it is a 10-year goal, it is a 15 years goal, it is a 5 years goal. We are yet to reach there. It is not yet in market. Maybe, as I said, it's hardly 1% or 2% sustainable products are in market. We are planning for it. We are planning for the future. It's not right away. We are not investing something on right away. It is for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. So all the, for example, if we take PVH, they are working on it for past 5 years, but they believe that this is going to impact the customer in 2025, a lot in 2025. So it's a goal of 5 years or 10 years. So we'll have to wait for it. It's not a short time goal, or it's not a short time investment on a product.
Right. What to add? I think very often there is also a notion that circular products or sustainable products are much more expensive than the normal ones, and some are, of course, because very often it is difficult to justify, the scale at which they are produced, or wages that the company provides. The reasons can be manifold, and very often they are there for a reason. But buying secondhand clothes is also circular principle. You don't have to spend like horribly too much to get that. There are many approaches to circularity that you can adopt that don't necessarily involve buying, the act of buying. Many of them are based on shared ownership, or circulating things over and over and over to increase their lifespan. So I think very often, having or adopting circular products, it's not about like readiness of the people to buy them. It's about giving them enough choices for them to be able to choose one and adopt it.
Very rightly said. Just one last suggestion that all of you, each one of you, would give to our audience out here about today's topic in general. Like, what should they do about it?
I think I'll go since I love giving advice to young kids. So it's yeah. So basically, I think what I have to say is that there's no silver bullet solution to sustainability and circular economy. There's not one solution or one right solution. And I read somewhere recently that it's not about 100% of the people doing 100% sustainability. It's about 1% of the people doing it in some way or the other that will create the larger change. So as students, just as I'd said earlier, just get the right information and see what it that is going into your product at the end of the day, and take up that ownership and responsibility as designers who can create change. It's not, don't sit back thinking that, oh, I'm just one designer, I'm just one small organization. I think all these small contributions can lead up to a much bigger picture and a much greater change. So yeah, all the best with that, and don't give up. Persevere and persist to creating a greener future for our future generations.
Yeah, so I'd like to add that for all the young designers out there, I think the topic that we spoke about today is a very relevant topic for the future, and there's very little information available in one place for it. There are a lot of different associations and a lot of different organizations trying to do a lot of different work. So read up on it. Try to keep yourself abreast with it. Definitely, I can definitely mention that for many of you who are looking at working with some of the larger brands or manufacturers at the same time building your own companies. This is a very important topic. There are very few people who have the expertise and knowledge on this, and this is something that you should consider very strongly, not only from the perspective of a better future for yourself, but also from the fact that it is important for us to work towards creating the right kind of environmental and social impact for our future generations, because honestly we've already created a lot of harm in the last 100 years, and it's going to be very difficult to reverse unless we start today.
I would like to make a very important point here. Sustainability is not a trend, because trend keeps changing every season. This is for the future. So do not think sustainability is a trend which came this season, might be there next season, and will vanish the season after that. So this is for the future. So this is not a trend. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I agree. It's not a trend. I mean, it's I think very clear to say that at this point of times where we live in. So I think overall, my advice is to be a bit more thoughtful, and add 1+1, it makes 2. You can't go around that. There's a certain logic to it. So just be honest with that, and then don't think that you cannot really create an impact or change. I think it's important to start from within and from yourself in order to understand the topic from the ground level, and then it's up to you in which way you're going to I guess do things differently. There's definitely a lot of things that can be done. The problem is we probably don't have that much time, so we better be quick. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we are coming to the end of the session over here. I also was observing that all our panelists are also actively interacting with us. Many participants over there answering their questions and giving them helpful support. Thank you so much for taking your time out over here. I want to personally thank each and every one of you who have participated in the panel today. We are very grateful for such ventures to happen in the future. And definitely we want to thank Mr. Siddharth, Ms. Susanna, Mr. Anand, and Ms. Devi for taking their very valuable time out of their busy schedules. And we are very, very lucky to actually come to a good panel like this, and that too a very varied panel today. And on that note, we'll also have to talk, I also want to thank our PR team, who have been instrumental in publishing all the different social media which is related to the event. If you want to follow any of their work and their companies, please do go and check out our Instagram post. Their companies are tagged over there, and you'll be able to reach out to them. Yeah, on that very note, thank you so much to all the participants for being such lively today. And we are very thankful to the entire team of JD, and especially the 3C team who are behind this entire venture here. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.